Morning everybody, or afternoon, or evening I guess, and welcome to a video sponsored by Lumix, and to a wet, rainy, horrible, grim Peak District here in England. Yeah, so obviously I'm not in Italy anymore, or Slovenia. Those videos are to come, two Slovenia videos, but today I want to talk about something that's very close to my heart, very, very close to my heart in fact. Tripods. Now that's going to shock some of you, I imagine, because if you followed this channel for a while, you'll know that I use Lumix cameras, and one of the reasons I use Lumix cameras is stabilisation. I love the stabilisation in them because I hate tripods. Hate them. And yet, pretty much every time I upload a video, people will say to me, James, if you hate tripods so much, what is your video camera standing on while you're talking to camera? And it's, every video I get comments like that. It's a funny comment, it's a tripod. Tripod's what my camera's standing on. I tolerate them, I don't like them. So yeah, despite the fact that I hate tripods, I have to take one with me pretty much everywhere because I make YouTube videos. And because of that, over the years, to try and justify it to myself a little bit more, I've tried to come up with some other uses for tripods, and well, I found a handful that I think really work. Now, if you're anything like me, then on a rainy, horrible day like this, you'll like to find ways to stay dry. Now, wearing a coat is fine, but what if you want to sit down and keep more of your body dry? Well, no problem at all if you've got a tripod, because it makes for a terrific shelter. Let me demonstrate. Now, the beauty of this, of course, is that you can sit and you can sit. Now, sitting under one of these is great if you like abdominal workouts, and if you just want to keep sort of your front dry. It doesn't really keep your backside dry, really. But you know, even so, I'll sometimes sit under here for minutes at a time. I know you're thinking, James, how is that any better than wearing a coat? But like all good things, it's best to try for yourself. And I think you'll find that it's better than just wearing a coat in pretty much every way, except for being colder and wetter. Now, when I went to YouTube school, one of the most important days I had of teaching was the importance of including coffee in your videos. Particularly if you're a millennial, it's really important that you include lots of coffee, you show how much you enjoy coffee, you show B-roll of you making coffee, you talk about coffee all the time, you talk about the importance of good roasting, good grind, all the nonsense about coffee, you talk about that a lot. And so obviously today, like a good millennial, I've brought my AeroPress out so that I could enjoy a nice fresh coffee while I'm making a video. Now I know what you're thinking, James, what on earth, that's not going to fit, what on earth has that got to do with a tripod? Well, since I'm a millennial, I'm a bit silly and a bit forgetful and not particularly responsible, and as such, today I forgot to bring with me a spoon. I was busy thinking about Snapchat filters and protection of ducks, stuff like that, and it's no problem really, because, oh, that looks disgusting, because I can just use my tripod, and that will be a perfect spoon. Yes, look at that. That looks like gravy, actually, to be honest. And at this point, you may be thinking to yourself, well, is that all that tripods have to offer as far as energy goes? And the answer is no. So like a good millennial, when it comes to lunchtime, I try to avoid bread. I basically look at bread as a microaggression on the world. So typically what I like to do is look east for my cuisine in the middle of the day. And well, I present to you, ladies and gentlemen, the Tri-Chop Stick. What do you think of that? Brilliant! You know, I'd have to say that despite the tripod being incredible as a spoon and a chopstick, I still think one of the best uses of a tripod is to increase the chances of your gear being stolen. You know, I think one of the biggest things for photographers when they're buying a new camera bag, and correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the biggest things, or the most important thing, seems to be that it doesn't look like a camera bag, and therefore doesn't look like it's got thousands of pounds worth of equipment in it. And the number of times other photographers say to me, James, I found this great new bag, doesn't look anything like a camera bag, is brilliant, and then they go and strap a tripod to it, and then they're like, check out my new bag that doesn't look like a camera bag. Who carries a tripod without also having loads of expensive camera equipment with them? What? Still, I guess the good thing about a tripod is that when you are accosted by someone trying to steal your gear because they've seen you've got a tripod, you can sort of use it as a weapon. I mean, to be honest, for me, in places like this, I'm unlikely to be accosted by a human. It's more likely to be cattle or a sheep that I can just prod. Never had that issue. I do tend to get on with sheep, so I'd have loved one of these when I was little, doing carnage. Also, and I mean this one as a genuine point, they are quite good, as I'm sure many of you have found before, as walking sticks. Sort of down treacherous ground, you can do this, or up treacherous ground, you know, just this sort of thing. I mean, you know how to use a walking stick. They are quite good as that. I have also found they're not quite as good as a seat. Also, I did just mean that as a bit of fun. Like, if you genuinely enjoy using a tripod, I'm not trying to take a stab at you. It's just that I really don't like it. I've talked at length before, really, about how I don't like using them and why I don't like using them. But basically, it boils down to the fact that I like to pursue photography as very much like a secondary thing to experience. And the primary thing to experience for me is when I'm outside in the outdoors, is just experiencing the outdoors, and photography is just a way for me to document that. And I've found in the past that if I try and use a tripod, then more often than not, photography ends up becoming the primary thing, because it takes so long to get the tripod out and to set up a shot and to compose and to recompose, whereas when I'm just walking around with a camera in my hand, I'm able to just sort of move around quite quickly. And a lot of people, I think, misunderstand that for kind of a spray and pray technique, and it's not really the case. I'm still being considered, I'm just doing so with my feet and my hands rather than a tripod, which, let's be honest, is quite a rudimentary invention when you consider all the technology that goes into modern cameras and the ergonomics of modern cameras and the stabilization and all the stuff like that, and yet we still in some cases rely on one of these, a three-legged bit of metal. Ugh. I think also, as I've spoken about on this channel before, I'm quite lucky in the sense that I really don't like long exposure photography, because if I did, then well, I'd basically have no choice but to use a tripod still. So yeah, I'm quite lucky that I don't particularly like that. Every time I try long exposure photography, I go home thinking that I've just created photos that look like they're sold as postcards, cheap postcards in post offices, is what I find. So yeah, I'm not that into long exposure. Anyway, yeah, if you can think of any alternative uses for tripods, do let me know, and maybe I'll include them in a part 2 down the line. I mean, some of those uses were completely useless, but I mean, try chopsticks. I think that'll take off. I'm very keen to point out that me sort of washing my tripod shouldn't be conveyed as an act of caring for it. It's just that it had coffee on it, and well, the last thing I'd want to spend money on is another tripod. So I thought I'd clean it. Fishing rod. Yes, be a good fishing rod. Golf club. Just quickly, just to sort of emphasise my disdain for tripods, I would say genuinely that if somebody told me I would have to use a tripod for every photo that I took from now on, I think I'd give up photography. And I do it for a living. So what I'm basically saying is that I would prefer an employment to using a tripod. Just to give you a sense of how strong my feeling against tripods are, even if I am seen cleaning it. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and thank you again to Lumix for sponsoring this video, and thanks for making your brilliant cameras. And finally, print sale. So the print sale ends on Thursday, this coming Thursday. So if you're interested in picking up a print, this is a good time to do so. I've added a few Italy prints after some of you have asked me to do so. So some of those are included in the sale now as well, so you can save a good amount of money by buying a print before Thursday, if you're watching this video in the first week that it goes live. After that, this will be nonsense. Unless you're watching when a future sale is on, but also ends on a Thursday, which could happen. See you next time.